Hi there, and welcome back to Our Little Handmade Home. For those of you that don't know me yet, my name is Tanya. I am the creator here in Our Little Handmade Home, and it is my goal to help you turn any house into a home, one handmade project at a time. Today we're going to be diving into some essential quilting blocks, and the first one that we're going to start with is the simple but functional Four-Patch. Let's get started. Today we're working on a Four-Patch. This is one of the most basic building blocks of quilting. It's one that you'll want to get fairly comfortable with. There's a lot of different ways to put these together, and they're all fairly quick and easy, so we're going to look at a couple of them today. Now, these blocks can be built in any size. You can have little ones like this. You could make them out of charm packs, which is what this one is. You could have layer cakes. You could have very big ones if you like. So this type of block isn't specific to a particular size, but it's one that you're going to find often in different patterns. You'll have repeating four blocks creating different patterns. So let's look at how we put this together. I have a project that I'm working on right now that I will be using these fabrics. I've already starched my fabric, cut out my squares, and gotten it ready. Now, these don't have to be directional, they can be. You can really do kind of anything you like with them. You could have light, light, dark, dark. You could have circles and squares, something that's going to have a contrast between the two. They're very easy to put together. We're simply going to flip that one that way. We're going to flip that one over top. So we're stitching them right sides together. We're just going to go down these edges with a 1/4 inch seam. These ones you can chain together very easily as well. So if you have a lot of these to do for one project, just chain them. So we've done our 1/4 inch seam down the side. As you can see, I've chained it together. And what you want to do is, of course, press to set your seams. And then I like to always press towards the darker fabric. And I'll show you why that is in a moment. So I'm going to open it up, press it out. I'm not using steam on this at all, just a dry iron. So the reason that I press them out that way is so that when I go to sew them together to create my block, these two seams are going to nest. As you can see there, they fit in perfectly together, and that's going to give me a nice crisp corner. So we're going to go ahead and stitch along this long edge, and then we'll see how it looks. So once you've stitched your seam down the long edge, go ahead and set your seam and then press it open. And as you can see, the nesting seams give you a nice clean point. And that's all there is to creating a Four-Patch. If you're going to be making a lot of smaller Four-Patches, what you can do is actually use rows. So these are 2 pieces out of a jelly roll, which if you've seen my 12 Days of Christmas in July videos, you'll recognize some of this fabric. So in this case, these strips measure 4.5 inches. Okay, so we've already got our 1/4 inch seam here. So 4.5. Now, if you want a 4.5 inch block, of course, you're going to need stitching space. So add your 1/2 inch back on, because you of course will lose a 1/4 inch off of each cut that you make. So you're going to need a piece off of here that is 2.5 inches, because that will give you your 2.25 inches sewn for both sides, which is going to give you a 4.5 inch block. I'll show you what I mean in a minute here, because I think I'm not explaining that really well. So if you have cut 2 pieces, so there's your 4-patch, and of course you're going to nest these seams together. So we'll just sew this up really quick. Okay, so we're going to set our seam. We're going to press it open. And that's going to give you your 4.5 inch block, as you can see. Now, you may have to adjust some seams depending on the size that you want to finish, but that's all you do. If you were cutting a square out of this that you didn't have to sew again, you could just cut 4.5 inches. But because you need the seam allowance, you have to add the extra 1/2 inch. So that is a really quick and easy way to get a lot of 4-patches done at one time. These strips could be any size. They could be a 5-inch strip, they could be a 10-inch strip, whatever you're working with. Just remember that when you slice them to put them together, you have to leave the seam allowance. Those are 4-patches. These are one of the #1 building blocks in quilting. It's something you'll want to be comfortable with, and it's something that you're going to see over and over again in a lot of simple and even more complicated patterns. Thanks again for joining me for today's quick tutorial on 4-patch quilt blocks. I'm definitely going to be putting some more of these tutorials together for you, so keep an eye out for those in the coming weeks. As always, any links that I have for you are going to be down below, and I'll leave a link to my shop as well, where you can see the pattern that I've created using a simple 4-patch. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.